It's Sandy Wiley. Welcome to my mental health channel, where I talk about personality disorders, especially mine, borderline personality disorder. I try to wipe away the stigma of mental illness. I talk about therapy. I talk about the great therapists. And I dive into a lot of things about my personal life, growing up with mental illness, having borderline personality disorder, and my father having schizophrenic disorder, and just a whole bunch of other things that have to do with mental health. What I am not is a doctor or a therapist. I don't have a degree in psychology, so I just want to set that clear. Also, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you like my videos, give it a thumbs up. If you like them, join my channel. It's for free. And just one thing, please be kind in the comments to me, to everyone else. We can have a difference of opinion, but I just ask you to be really considerate and kind. Now, if y'all been following me, you know I've been in therapy almost 20 years, except for the past 2 years. I have borderline personality disorder. What I'm going to talk about today in this video is in my opinion now, because my opinion differs than the literature I've read out there. In my opinion, what kind of therapy, what helps someone with borderline personality disorder? So if you have borderline personality disorder, or you know someone or love someone who has borderline personality disorder, what kind of therapy, if they're willing to go to therapy, would be helpful to them? Now, all the literature out there says borderline personality disorder needs, DBT therapy, CBT therapy, very high boundaries, and I don't agree. Psychodynamic therapy, I think, is best with borderlines. Not psychoanalysis, not DBT, not CBT. Now, I'm not going to go into and explain each one of these individual therapies. You can Google them. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not a professor. I'm not a teacher. I'm not here to give you I'm not here to give you therapy. I'm not here to, to try to do a crash course on psychology. I'm here just to, share my own personal experiences with you, and we can learn together too. Now, if I had to pick what I needed in therapy, right? If I could sit down and we could make this robot, this perfect therapist for someone with my diagnoses, I'd say that connection is the biggest thing. A reliable, consistent connection. Reliable, consistent connection. RCC, not RCA. RCC. Reliable, consistent connection. You need to be really consistent. You need to be really reliable. And you need to have that good, strong connection. Now, what helps me is writing, okay? So I would need, and I would think, I would recommend to you, someone with borderline personality disorder, you get a psychologist who does psychodynamic therapy and who allows you to text him, email him, and call him. Especially texts and emails. Now, phone calls are different, right? Maybe phone calls in emergencies, because phone calls, someone might be busy and they can't pick up, when you need them at that moment. And I think it's very important. Let me put this out there straight. At least for me. I'll only talk from my own personal dynamic. When I really have these intense feelings that are just like overwhelming me, like because of my borderline personality disorder, I need to release these feelings right then and there. So it's not going to do any good to call someone and leave a message. and they're busy, that's not going to help me. So, and nobody, no psychologist or no friend or no, lover or whoever it is going to be available 24/7 to take your phone call. So I think that's why email and text are always a good idea. I think if you have these overwhelming feelings, I think that you should write, because you can send an email right then and there, and they can read it whenever they're available to read it, see? But you can send it, and I think that's very important. With someone with my mental disorder is I need to release these feelings immediately, as soon as I have them, because they're it's just like I can't consume them all. It's like, this is a good analogy I'll use. It's like when I have these feelings, like blowing up a balloon, right? Blowing and blowing and blowing until the balloon is so expanded it pops. Pop! You snap. So what I would recommend is a psychologist who is fine with you writing emails and or text messaging and or at least writing emails, because it is very helpful when you have these intense feelings to be able to release them. And like, I know because I'm a writer, but you don't have to be a writer, to write an email. Everyone writes emails. I think it's very helpful when you start feeling overwhelmed with whatever happened, to get that out, and just get that out raw, and you don't have to think about, being polite or, just get it all out. Even if you're swearing, this effing woman at work, she's so arrogant, and she blah, 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 she looked down on me, whatever, it is. I think it's very important to be able to release that immediately. And now if you can't, if you're not in a position at a laptop, I hate, typing on my phone. I hate that. I cannot write emails more than like a couple of words on my phone. The key, the letters are so teeny weeny, and then I because of my nails, it's not for me. I need to sit down at a full length keyboard. But I mean, a quick text, if you don't have access to your laptop or your computer, might help. Like, I'm really upset at this woman at work, or so. I just think that we need that. I've had therapists who refused. They said, I will not read your emails. I said, that's like, cutting off oxygen to me. I mean, you will not read. I mean, when you sign out to be a psychologist, it's like being a parent, really. It's not a 24-hour. It's not a 9 to 5. It is a 20. I always say the reverse, of what I mean. I don't know why I do that. It's not a 9 to 5 job, is what I'm trying to say. It's more a 24/7 job, just like being a parent. You can't, like, if you're a psychologist, you just can't shut off, go to work 9 to 5, and then, a patient might be in crisis. I mean, I've known my share of therapists, and they've told me stories, that they've been in the hospital till 11, 12 o'clock in the morning with a patient, or been on the phone, a patient's in a crisis. You just can't, it isn't like a 9 to 5 job where you just shut off, Just like with a parent. When you're a parent for life. So, I think if a therapist is telling you that they don't want you to write them or contact them outside the office, then that's not your therapist. Not for this. Maybe for, something else. But from personal experience, that is the worst thing a therapist can tell me. I'm not going to read. And they have told me this. I'm not going to read your emails. I'm not going to read your texts. I'm not going to take your phone calls. I think a therapist, and I'm not saying a therapist needs to be available like in the middle of the night or something, unless it's a crisis or something. But even then, I'm just saying that when you have all these overwhelming feelings that you need release, you know. If you can talk to someone at that time, great. If you call them and leave a message, but try to email them, because I just think it would save people a lot of heartache. Like, for instance, if you were really upset and you cut yourself, say, or like when I was really upset and I drank martinis and then got in a car and drove and got in a head, and I drove drunk and got in a head-on collision. Thank God no one got hurt. My car didn't even get a scratch, and the police didn't, bring me in for DUI or write me up for that or nothing. I told you that was read it. It was a night of my guardian angel. But I think if you're in that kind of moment, right, where you need release, and I think a lot of people, I don't know because I've never was a cutter, but I think that might be why they do that, because they need release somehow. Now, because I'm not that, I'm not going to say that's the reason, but I think it could be one of the reasons. Could be. But I will tell you, when I need release, I need release. And, turning towards someone, emailing someone can help. So if you're looking for a therapist that can help someone with this condition, that's the first thing I'd ask for. Contact outside the therapy office. Because, what is therapy? Like 50 minutes a week, maybe twice a week, or whatever it is. It's not long. Think about a day has 24 hours, right? If you're like me, you're dealing with these feelings 24/7, right? What's therapy? 50 minutes once a week, twice a week, or something? It's not long. What is going to sustain you the rest of the week? And you just can't put it all on one person. You can't just put it on your spouse or your lover or your best girlfriend, or, you know what I mean? Because they're going to burn out, It's going to destroy your relationships. So I think that's why you should have several outlets. And your therapist being a very good one, if they allow, you to email like that. And Dr. Richard Geis and Dr. James Barbaria both allowed emails. Dr. Jeffrey Fortgang allowed emails too. So, and I know, but I'm just telling you, those were good qualities in those therapists, that they did allow outside the office contact through emailing, through phone calls, especially emails, because emails, I could just, a phone call, someone's busy, they don't pick up, you have to wait. And you have to wait holding all these feelings, and they feel like a ton of bricks, okay? When I have all these intense feelings, it feels like, someone keeps dumping another brick and another brick on. Pretty soon I'm going to collapse, right? Just think if someone keeps dumping, your arms are already overloaded carrying all these bricks. Just one more and you're going to collapse. That's why it's important to be able to have outside the office contact. So if you are seeking therapy and you have this disorder, or even other things, I think it's very helpful to be able to release it in the moment through writing, through an email, through text message, And the more outlets you have, the better. I mean, instead of just like if you have friends, the more outlets you have to be able to release, I think is much better. It doesn't put it all on one person. So if you email your best friend, if you email your lover, if you email your therapist, if you have all different channels, you're just not, but let's just get back to the main thing. How can a therapist help a borderline patient? And that's number one priority there, right? To allow the patient the email, the texting, set up a thing. You'll have to set up, like, talk about, you need to be consistent with this. It's very important, consistency, and tell them, like, what they can expect if you do that. Like, they can't always write you back. If you write them at 10 o'clock at night and they're sleeping, they can't write you back. Or if they're having dinner and family time, they can't write you back. But just knowing that you wrote it and they will read it, you know, and just having the knowledge that you wrote it and they'll read it. And I think that's very important. And the consistency is very important. Someone can't, you know, you can't flip-flop on someone who's, you know, with this disorder. You need to be consistent, because growing up, I never had any consistency. So it's imperative to be consistent in what you do. Don't say something and not mean it. Oh, God. I've had people say that. I mean, I've had Dr. Geist tell me things, say something, and then he didn't follow through on it. Follow through on what you say, especially to a borderline. You need to follow through on what you say. Don't say, oh yeah, call me and leave a message, I'll call you back, and then don't do it. You see? Be very clear and concise in what you say. If you call me outside of office hours, I might not get back to you to the next day. You need to be very clear and concise, you know. Don't say things because they sound good. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Be consistent with it all the time, across the board. Be consistent. And if something comes up in your life and you can't be consistent, then you need to inform the person, like, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I know I said I'd call you back, but an emergency came up with my son, and you know, I couldn't do it. It's very important to be honest and real with a borderline. Be honest and say, you know, what happened. Don't keep them in the dark, you know. I mean, I think I really need honest answers, not like I was busy. I think that's arrogant. Oh my God, imagine, and that's what Dick Geist did to me. You know, he said, call and leave a message. I will call you back. He already laid down, he said that. Then the next week I called him up. My son was brutally beaten, and he ignored me. And then when I said, you told me I could call you and leave a message, and I called him 2 days in a row, and he ignored me 2 days in a row. And he said, I was busy. I was tied up. I mean, that's really arrogant. Can you see, if we're friends, right, and you call me and I didn't call you back, and you go, you know, hey, Sandy, you know, I left you several messages over the weekend. Why didn't you call me back? And I go, well, I was busy. Just like that. What would you think? You wouldn't want to be friends with me anymore, right? You'd say, what a bitch she is. You know? Jesus. But if I told you, I'm so sorry that I didn't call you, you know, my son was in the hospital or whatever have you. I don't know, you know. A situation came up, you know, that I was just like, I felt so sick. I went to bed very early, you know, with a bad cold or something, you know what I mean? Doesn't that sound much better to you than I was busy? You see, you need to treat people with respect. And, you know, especially people like us who've been crapped on all our lives, all our childhood, need to treat people with respect. Need to have clear and consistency. Need to be available outside the 9 to 5 perimeters of the office hours, so that, you know we have someplace to go, you know, just somewhere we can, you know, put our feelings in. Put our feelings in words, you know, put them in a text. Put them, even if you leave a phone message. Phone messages, I mean, it might be helpful just to get it all out, but they should say, I might not get back to you until the next day. I might not, you know. But sometimes it is helpful, you know, if you're one that you're too upset to type or to talk, that you just need to say, just leave a message and, you know, blah, 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 oh, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes just to release it at that moment, even though the person, you're just leaving it on their answering machine. But knowing that they will receive it. So this is important. Clear, consistency, having that connection, that outside the office connection, where you can express yourself through email, through text messaging, or through phone calls. And make sure you set up ahead what they can expect. Like, I might not be able to answer the phone after this time in the evening, or if it's an emergency, or make sure like you get everything out on the table in the beginning so you know what to expect. I think it's because I grew up, I never knew what to expect from my parents, okay? This is why it's imperative when you work with someone like me that I always know what to expect, that you're always clear and consistent, dependable and reliable. Very, very important. And honest. Don't be arrogant. If something comes up, say, apologize. Say why you couldn't answer. So I think if you're looking for a therapist, you need someone who's willing to do that. I think I don't think being rigid is I think that's not gonna work. Of course, being ethical, that goes without saying. But I shouldn't say it goes without saying, because most of the psychologists I had were not ethical. But I think that, someone's out there who you can depend on, who you can reach out to. I think that's very important. Yeah. So hopefully, writing a diary I never liked. I know therapists have told me to write a diary, but you know what? Who's going to read my words, I mean, when I am upset and full of these feelings, I need to release them then and there, and I want to share them, not just put them in a book with a key and put it in the drawer, you see? I want someone, out there to be able to, to hold my words, like to hold me, cradle me, hold my words. I think that's very important. And so I think that looking for a therapist who's willing to do that is very important, who isn't rigid. Even though they say that borderlines need very, strict boundaries, I think that, they need also, more importantly, to be able to reach out to someone in a time when their feelings are overwhelming and share that. I think that is the most important thing. Having that connection with another human being. Someone out there who's willing to hold their thoughts and feelings, that's very, very important. It's always been important to me. So, there you have it. I told you, what to look for, what it would be good, what a good therapist looks like. Not someone who's going to have sex with you, obviously. I should state that because it isn't obvious to some of them. Not someone that's going to take advantage of you. Not someone that's not going to be consistent with you. Consistency, dependability. And someone that, will allow you to reach out. That kind of connection to be able to get your words out there. All right, until next time.